The Midnight Dispatch is a fictional podcast inspired by real people and events. Characters have been dramatized for entertainment purposes and artistic exploration. This is not a documentary. It is a work of imagination and may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Scene 1. House of Secrets. The rain had ceased, but the damp lingers. A spectral hush curls through the alleyways of South Norwood. Arthur Doyle's residence stands dark beneath the soot-streaked sky, its windows vacant, its door unopened for days longer than comfort allowed. Oscar Wilde adjusts his velvet collar, lips pursed in subtle disapproval. Harry Houdini crouches before the door, beneath the lion-headed knocker, his silhouette sharp against the afternoon haze. He wears a tailored overcoat, dark and close-fitting, the collar turned up like a stage curtain drawn around him. His hands, small, strong, and unnervingly steady, emerge from leather gloves with the fingers cut off, revealing calloused tips and the gleam of metal tools nestled between them. His face is taut with focus, lips pressed into a line that's half concentration, half contempt for the lock's simplicity. A faint scar runs along his jawline, catching the light as he tilts his head. His eyes, dark, intelligent, and impatient, scan the mechanism like a magician sizing up a volunteer. He doesn't speak. He performs. The pick slides in with a whisper, a click, another. The door yields.
Oscar, you could at least try to look inconspicuous.
Wilde sweeps through the doorway like he's attending a gala.
Dear Harry, discretion is for burglars. I'm here to commit literary larceny.
The parlor is cold, untouched. The hearth's ashes are long dead. No sign of Doyle, just silence wearing the shape of absence. Papers still littered the desk, his pen precisely placed beside a closed folio. Yet something is wrong. Wilde tastes it in the air, a forgotten echo, a house half abandoned unexpectedly. Houdini moves ahead, fingers brushing along cracked wallpaper as if divining secrets through texture. In the study, they find it. A chest. Mahogany, iron-braced and padlocked. It sits, daring them to ask questions.
A locked chest in a locked house owned by a locked mind. Have we truly broken in, or are we simply stepping into Doyle's next chapter?
Houdini kneels, tools in hand. The tumblers whisper to him like old friends. After a few short moments, the lock clicks open with a soft metallic snap. Houdini leans back on his heels as Wilde lifts the lid of the old trunk. Inside, there are bundled papers, a few cracked leather-bound volumes, and at the bottom, a journal, worn, weather-stained, and unmistakably Arthur's.
I don't like breaking into my friends' houses, and I like peeking at their secrets even less, Oscar.
He's been missing for 3 days since the night of the last murder, Harry. True friends stab you in the front. They don't disappear without a trace in the middle of a moderately well-concocted plan to catch a killer. Let's see what he didn't want anyone else to find.
Wilde opens the journal. The pages are dense with ink, the handwriting increasingly erratic. He flips through slowly, scanning entries. Houdini leans over his shoulder. They read in silence for a long time. The journal details Doyle's ill-fated Arctic voyage. The crew slowly eroded by unseen tensions, one man vanishing without trace, and a captain whispering traces of madness. Beneath the ice, Doyle unearthed something not meant to be found, a cavern etched with symbols, a pedestal carved from something older than stone, and atop it, an emerald that pulsed like a trapped heartbeat. It seeped into his dreams, occupied his thoughts, and perhaps corrupted the SS hope from within. Worst of all, Doyle didn't leave it behind. The journal lay between them like a wound, ink bleeding across pages in erratic waves, margins crowded with sketched symbols. Wilde turns each page slowly, reverently, as if afraid the paper might scream.
This isn't just a travelogue, it's a confession.
Or a warning, though I'm not sure to whom.
The entries began with clinical precision, dates, coordinates, crew rosters. Doyle's tone was detached, scientific. But as the voyage progressed, the language frayed. Descriptions of frostbitten sailors gave way to accounts of whispered voices beneath the ice, dreams of green lights, haunted landscapes, and a captain who spoke to shadows.
Day 43. The ice groans like a dying god. I dream of a cavern that breathes. The emerald calls to me, not in words, but in hunger.
He brought it back. That thing. He didn't leave it behind.
Oscar flips to a sketch, rough, frantic lines forming a pedestal carved with symbols. At its center, the emerald, drawn with obsessive detail. Around it, figures bow in worship, their faces erased.
This is what's been killing people.
No, this is what's been using people.
They turn another page, the handwriting nearly illegible now, scratched like claw marks. A final entry, half finished.
London is louder now. The emerald doesn't sleep here. I see things in the fog, faces I don't know, calling me by names I've never spoken.
Silence fell again, heavy and absolute.
He kept it. It's still here.
Then let's find it before it finds someone else.
They move deeper into the house, past the parlor and into Doyle's study. The room is dim, lined with shelves of occult texts and relics from his travels. At the far end, beneath a faded tapestry, stands a glass case, its contents arranged with obsessive care. Inside, a ceremonial dagger, a cracked Roman coin, a bundle of dried herbs, and at the center, resting on a velvet cushion, the emerald. It pulses faintly, as if aware.
I don't want to touch it.
Then let me. I've survived critics, debutantes, and a Russian mystic with opinions on interior decorating.
Oscar opens the case. The moment his fingers brush the emerald, the room seems to exhale. Books rustle, the candle on the desk flickers, and a low hum vibrates through the floorboards. He pauses, then reaches up and unties the silk kerchief from around his neck, a deep plum, embroidered faintly with golden thread.
I suppose even vanity has its uses. Here, I surrender a fragment of my elegance to bind something monstrous. Or perhaps it is my elegance that shall be bound, and the monster merely wore it.
He lays the kerchief on the desk and gently places the emerald at its center. As he folds the silk around it, the hum dulls, muffled by the fabric, but doesn't vanish.
It's quieter now, but not silent.
Then let's keep it that way. We need to show this to Melville. And Bell.
And Yates. This isn't just murder. It's myth. And if Arthur's the vessel, if he's been overtaken by some unspeakable evil, then we have to help him. We should visit the library and take a closer look inside the journal before flinging it at Scotland Yard like confetti.
Scene 2. Law and Intrigue. The heart of London's law and order beats behind thick stone walls and iron gates. Scotland Yard is a fortress of bureaucracy and suspicion, its corridors dimly lit by lamps and the weakening gray light that filters through ash-streaked windows. The air smells of damp overcoats and cold steel. Inside the records room, the walls are lined with shelves sagging under the weight of ledgers, case files, and maps. A large oak table dominates the center, scarred by years of elbows, spilled tea, and the occasional knife. Papers are strewn across it, photographs, sketches, and a handful of strange symbols inked in red and black. 4 men stand around the table, each carved from a different world. William Melville, rigid and unreadable, exudes the cold authority of empire, his eyes sharp as bayonets, his posture a warning. Beside him, Dr. Joe Bell leans forward, fingers steepled, the analytical hum of his mind almost audible as he studies the symbols like anatomical curiosities. Across from them, Harry Houdini is all coiled energy. His compact frame taut with skepticism, hands twitching near his coat pocket where lockpicks sleep like daggers. And Oscar Wilde, languid yet electric, drapes himself over a chair with theatrical ease, his gaze flickering between the symbols and the men, as if deciphering both. They are a quartet of minds, spy, scientist, magician, and poet, drawn together by a darkness none of them fully understand.
You staged a trap in my city without clearance. You lured a killer by using a young girl as bait in an area packed with civilians. Tell me, was it arrogance or idiocy?
Houdini is the first to answer, eyes intense with the frustration of being scalded like a child.
We understood enough to know Scotland Yard wasn't going to catch him, and we didn't ask permission because we didn't have time to wait for red tape.
You had time to rig a stage, time to bait a trap, but not time to inform the men whose job it is to stop murder?
Oscar barely raises an eyebrow. He thrives in a world of unrestrained emotions and clever debates, and his tone is always that of the instigator, never the riled.
Oh, come now, William. How many Ripper murders have these men stopped? We certainly could do no worse than Scotland Yard. Plus, we weren't hunting a man. We were courting a myth, and myths don't respond well to paperwork.
Dr. Joe Bell, the real-life Sherlock Holmes, speaks without emotion. His words cut through the presentation like a scalpel.
The myth left a corpse, and these marks, they repeat throughout the journal and the crime scenes. Although we've managed to keep this out of the papers, there does seem to be an underlying sense of the arcane surrounding this case.
If you all are quite finished indulging in amateur theatrics, I'd like to know what actionable intelligence this journal provides. Where's Doyle now? Where is the emerald?
We secured it. Wilde wrapped it in silk, like an opera ghost. It's contained, for now.
Bell continues studying the journal. He has stopped on the page that contains the detailed drawing of the altar.
The symbols match fragments I've seen in pre-Roman funerary rites and something Mesopotamian, Gilgamesh adjacent. This isn't just a relic, it's an invocation.
Then Doyle is the priest, and we're the choir. Badly out of tune, I admit.
You misunderstand, Oscar. This is no poetic errand. If Doyle is compromised, then he's a threat. And if this cult is real, if McGregor Mathers is involved, then we're chasing not just a murderer, but a movement. Mathers and the Alpha et Omega have been a matter of interest for a while.
Not just a movement, a belief system. Ritual killings with symbolic signatures, psychological warfare cloaked in legend.
You can't imagine how many hours I've spent staring down lunatics with obsidian trinkets and magic daggers claiming magic powers. You think this emerald is any different?
Well, yes, because this lunatic is a friend, and whatever Doyle is up to, he is certainly not himself. This cursed stone is using him as a vessel.
Bell stands, walking slowly to a map pinned with threads and photographs.
These killings trace a perimeter, not random, not symbolic, but ritualistic. They form a kind of alchemical circle. Not complete yet, but deliberate. And Arthur, he's not at its centre. He's one of its tools.
Houdini approaches the map, tracing the pattern.
Each murder near water, each body posed. Symbols either carved or inked, sometimes both. You think this is a summoning?
I think it's an awakening, the kind that rewrites reality for those who believe deeply enough.
Melville gestures toward the journal Wilde carries.
Let's stop speaking in metaphor. This emerald, what is it?
Wilde lays it gently on the table, still wrapped in silk.
A temptation, possibly a prison. Doyle spoke of it like a god, but not the benevolent sort. This one whispers through dreams and dark visions.
Bell continues examining the journal, thumbing to a page of diagrams, concentric circles, primitive glyphs, a figure with antlers and hollow eyes.
See this? Not pagan, older, pre-symbolic. It's a representation of the Harbinger, a figure invoked in rare sects as a conduit between dimensions. Ancient Mesopotamians feared it. Victorian occultists romanticized it. Somehow, MacGregor is exploiting its hold over Arthur to complete a series of blood rites.
Melville grimaces.
You're telling me Doyle fell into an ideological trap set a century ago?
I'm telling you the trap might be deeper, older, and active.
Melville, your empire catalogues tombs and trade routes, but belief, that seeps under doors and between cracks. Doyle didn't stumble. He was chosen, or worse, groomed.
The quiet that follows is less hesitation than reverence. 4 minds, bound by ink and unease, confronting the kind of truth that folds logic in half. Doyle didn't lose himself in superstition. He crossed into the place where reason simply doesn't apply. And magic, Wilde would say, prefers mystery to math.
So you think the next step is Yeats?
If anyone understands this pantheon of symbols and madness, it's the poet who dances with the dead. He and MacGregor co-founded the Golden Dawn. Yeats walked away from its deeper rituals, but he never closed the door. The trouble with friends, Melville, is that they know just enough to become enemies worth fearing.
Melville steps toward Wilde, his voice measured.
Oscar, if you walk into that temple, you go as a scholar, not a savior. Do I make myself clear?
Oscar steps back, wrapping the emerald again.
I go as a witness, and perhaps as the next chapter in Doyle's journal.
Bell stands and hands Wilde a folder, one full of photographs, sketches, and translations of cult symbols.
Bring these to Yeats and tell him we're not analysing mythology anymore. We're walking straight into it.
Melville looks at Bell, eyes sharp with aggravated hesitation. He shakes his head.
Fine. Take the materials, but understand this, Wilde. If I find you obstructing an investigation again, I won't need a myth, a spell, or a magic rock to make you disappear.
Oscar gathers himself in his usual flourish as he turns towards the door.
Fear not, William. I intend to obstruct nothing but ignorance.
Bell speaks softly as Harry gathers the remaining papers from the table.
The emerald's influence may not be local. Be careful, Oscar. Truth bends easily under old light.
Scene 3. Return to the Urania Temple. The carriage slows to a reluctant halt, wheels muffled by a patch of gravel on Blythe Road. Rain hasn't yet committed to falling but hovers indecisively in the air, slicking cobblestones with a sheen that distorts the gaslight glow. Across the way stands the Isis Urania Temple, the home of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, its facade almost too plain, 3 stories of weathered dark stone, no signage, but something in the geometry makes the eye hesitate. Inside the carriage, Wilde draws the window curtain back with a languid finger.
There are thresholds, and then there are temptations made architecturally inevitable.
His voice is calm, but the air had changed, less bluster, more reverence, like a man reading his own obituary. He wasn't sure if he expected scripture or sorcery, but he had a strong feeling that the building across the street could accommodate either. Houdini steps out first, boot heels scraping the stone with practiced caution. He looks up, studies the windows. Not for light, but movement. The building is square, symmetrical, perhaps even dull, but something is askew in its presence. Not wrong, just rewritten. He adjusts his coat. Wilde steps out, casually strolls to the front of the carriage and quickly pats the head of one of the horses before following Harry. The interior of the temple drinks silence like wine, walls muted, stone polished by candlelight and careful footsteps. Oscar and Harry step past the threshold, the air curling cold and dry around them, scented faintly with incense and mildew. This was not a place that greeted visitors. It endured them. Oscar feels it the moment he steps across the threshold, an almost imperceptible shift in air pressure. Harry crosses beside him in silence, scanning the stonework, the sconces, the way the building seems to lean inward rather than rise. W.B. Yeats stands near the inner archway, dressed in somber black, a journal tucked beneath one arm. He watches their approach with the cold patience of someone who had expected an arrival, but not necessarily this one. His voice carries only softly, but the stone echoes it with uncomfortable intimacy.
I assume you come bearing dread. The last visit left blood on the floorboards.
Yes, well, one does prefer not to relive an evening spoiled by ritual bloodletting. Besides, that particular chaos was courtesy of your magical secret service, not ours. So, Willie, how fares the tale of two cults these days?
Yates does not smile.
Crowley's still caged, though he writes as if the bars are metaphors. Every letter riddled with omens, chessboards, and mythological threats. The guards think he's mad. I'm less certain.
He turned, walking toward the low lectern beneath the east window, where dust clung to parchment like a second skin. His fingers tap a rhythm atop the journal, 3 beats, uncertain, interrupted.
Nothing from McGregor. The Alpha et Omega's numbers are small but growing. And the artifact? Still silent as the dead we didn't bury. I suspect McGregor has vanished with intent, not accident. There are no coincidences, Oscar.
The room feels colder, not because of temperature, but alignment. Oscar notices the obsidian scrying basin had been moved, and one of the eastern candles remained unlit, symbolic neglect perhaps, or a safety precaution.
The temple's fractured. Half our circle dreams of rot. The other half won't sleep. We lost Faraday 2 months ago, claimed by a miscast veil walk. Richards hasn't spoken since.
Oscar once dismissed spells as mere parlor stunts, conjured by men in cloaks who mistook drama for divinity. But then Yates, all poise and poetic spite, outdueled Aleister Crowley in a spell-flinging bout that even pushed the limits of Harry's eternal skepticism. Wilde watched the smoke settle, sighed, and declared magic finally respectable, especially now that it came with rivalry and reputation.
As it happens, we've uncovered something new. A trail, faint, fractured, but telling. It may illuminate the mystery of the missing amulet, and whatever elaborate mischief McGregor's entangled himself in.
The air in the temple's entry chamber grows heavy, too dense with silence, memory, and the scent of extinguished incense. Yates gestures curtly toward the west corridor, and the group follows, boots thudding against old stone worn smooth by generations of guarded steps. The passage twists past shuttered alcoves and narrow stained glass slits, each casting fractured light on scripts half erased by time or choice. At the end stands a thick oak door, unassuming but meticulously carved, ivy and serpents braid into its frame. Yates opens it without ceremony. Inside, the study welcomes them with old smoke and even older secrets. Books lean into each other like conspirators, and scrolls lay in careful disorder across a mahogany desk scarred by ritual blades and careless cups of ink. Wall-to-wall shelves store uneven stacks of codices, ledgers, and grimoires that seem to shift slightly when not observed directly. A fireplace glows with minimal conviction, crackling softly, failing to chase away the chill that clung to the west-facing walls. Seated before the hearth is a man wrapped in dark tweed, spectacles resting low on his nose, pen hovering above a half-finished sentence. He looks up as they entered.
Wilde and Houdini. Yates said he thought you would return eventually, but I thought he'd grown dramatic again. Seems I was wrong.
Abraham Stoker stands, slow but steady, the weight of unread correspondence stacked beside him. His gaze sweeps over the trio, pausing briefly on the silk bundle in Wilde's grasp, but without recognition. Not yet.
Whatever it is you found, it has the temple murmuring. The basin pulsed last night. Richards was nearly drawn in. I suspect you've stirred something ancient, and if McGregor's silence is the echo, I'd like to hear the shout.
His eyes narrowed as the 3 men enter and gather around the desk.
Hold, if you please. Is there not yet a third soul to this curious fellowship? One we've most inconveniently misplaced?
Wilde sets the silk-wrapped bundle down with deliberate care, as though placing memory itself on trial. The study dims as he begins to speak, his voice measured, yet flecked with bitterness. He recounts the trap they'd staged, a performance meant to draw the killer into the open, a gambit where Jack might slip and be caught. It failed, resulting in another grisly killing. Doyle vanished into fog. Houdini steps in, his account clipped and clinical, how they broke into Arthur's home not as thieves but as friends desperate for answers, how the journal reveals a descent into obsession rooted in an Arctic expedition where something unnatural had been unearthed. A cavern, a pedestal, and an emerald pulsing with hunger. They found the stone sealed in Arthur's study and wrapped it in Wilde's silk scarf, anything to quiet its whisper. The murders had grown stranger, Wilde explained, symbols etched and bodies placed with ritual precision. Meanwhile, the emerald was no relic. It was a lure, a voice, perhaps even a key. And their friend was not simply missing. He was repurposed. They gather at the study table. Each man focuses as the journal lay open between them. Houdini flips through pages methodically, marking patterns and cross-referencing dates with Melville's file, overflowing with newspaper clippings, photographs, and crime scene notes. Oscar leans in now and then, offering anecdotes of Arthur's logic and occasionally challenging it with ironic commentary. Bram reads slowly, quietly absorbing references to older rituals and symbols he recognizes from folklore archives. Yates concentrates on the metaphysical elements, diagrams, planetary alignments, and erratic marginal notes. The journal is dense and erratic, but full of truths that could be decoded. It outlines not just events from Doyle's Arctic expedition, but theories about what he'd brought back. The emerald wasn't an object of study. It was central, recurring like a chorus.
This dream he recounts, the one where he scrawls the word Harbinger. This reads more like a premonition. I'm wondering if Arthur was somehow dreaming glimpses of the future.
Curious. The very evening I first asked Doyle to assist me, he declined with the gravity of a man defending the sanctity of his time. And yet, that same night, he displayed one of his peculiar relics, a pen of all things, cursed, he claimed, and capable of revealing truths the wielder did not yet know. Quaint, poetic, and likely mad.
The three others stop what they're doing and look directly at Wilde, expressions tightening into something between recognition and uncertainty. Yates lowers the journal in his hands. Bram sets down Melville's folio. Houdini straightens slightly, hands still hovering near a diagram he'd been annotating, his usual skepticism dimmed by Wilde's story.
It was only after he returned home that he sent word that he had decided to join me. No explanation, just his acceptance, stark and strange. I am left to wonder. Did the pen whisper some unwelcome truth to him? Did it sketch, perhaps, the outline of a mystery too entangled with his own soul to ignore? If so, Doyle wasn't merely helping me solve this enigma. He was attempting to decipher the riddles he carried within.
None of them speak at first. The idea hangs, quiet, intrusive, unfinished. A cursed pen that revealed secrets not yet known. A reluctant agreement followed by a forthcoming disappearance, the implications curled inward.
This isn't scattered madness, it's structured invocation. The components are deliberate.
He gestures toward the emerald, still wrapped in wild silk, resting like a patient at the center of the table.
The emerald is the catalyst. It opens the path to the vessel.
Doyle.
Yes, the vessel spills blood, each act a ritual offering. Not random killings, but mapped sacrifices.
He walks to the pinned map near the hearth, where red threads marked each murder.
And then there's the amulet. Missing. Stolen. Not for adornment, but for unlocking. The gate itself requires it. Without it, the ritual falters. With it.
His voice trails off. Bram leans forward.
Jack is the first stanza. The amulet is the second, and the gate, when opened, is the crescendo that showers the world with cosmic doom. The end of all things.
Yates turns, his eyes piercing.
Jack is the harbinger, not a man, not a myth, but a function. And poor Arthur, a prisoner in his own body, a puppet doing unspeakable deeds on behalf of the Harbinger. His blade doesn't sever, it beckons. Each murder tightens the pattern. London isn't haunted. It's the parchment upon which an ancient enchantment is being written. A spell powered by the sacrifice of innocent blood.
A pause hangs in the room, heavy and uninvited. Wilde taps a knuckle against the emerald's cloth shroud.
Gentlemen, the blade beckons, the gate hungers, and London waits to be reborn. Let's not keep history waiting.
Good evening, listeners. Welcome to the Midnight Dispatch. I'm your host, Joe, and this has been episode 10, Harbinger's Rite. This episode unveils what we might have suspected after last episode. Doyle, the man who created the ultimate champion of rationality, has become the puppet for something that predates rational thought. What's especially chilling is that the Harbinger doesn't possess Doyle in the theatrical, spinning headway. It rewrites him. It bends his dreams first, then his logic, then his sense of self. It's a spirit that operates through pattern, symbol, and repetition, a kind of cosmic algorithm invited in through his possession of the emerald. This is why his own reflection winked and grinned at him in the obsidian bowl. Also, the emerald was referenced in episode 2 right before he scrawls the word Harbinger with the cursed pen. We now see all the strange visions of Oscar's dream in episode 1 come to fruition. So I want to take a minute and just say that I have enjoyed putting these episodes together and telling this story. I received 3 really great reviews on iTunes from you all, and I can't thank you enough for that. If you haven't already, go say some kind words there so the show gets in front of more people. Your reviews really do help. Okay, let's get into this episode. This episode marks a tonal shift in the season. The mystery stops being merely investigative and becomes existential. Doyle's journal reframes the murders not as the work of a human killer, but as the byproduct of a mind slowly colonized by something older, colder, and utterly indifferent to Victorian rationality. We find out, along with Oscar and his pals, that Doyle isn't just missing, he's been claimed. I really enjoy the scene between Melville, Belle, Oscar, and Harry. I think what makes that confrontation so compelling is that it isn't just an argument. It's a collision of worldviews, each man revealing his philosophy through the way he pushes back. Melville and Belle are both men of order, but they represent 2 different kinds of order. And episode 10 finally forces those differences into the open. Melville is the Empire's spine. His authority is procedural and territorial. When he confronts Wilde and Houdini, he's not angry about the occult implications, he's angry about the breach of protocol. To him, the danger is not the emerald or the Harbinger, the danger is chaos, unsupervised action, civilians meddling in state affairs. His worldview is, if it can't be controlled, it must be contained. If it can't be contained, it must be eliminated. Bell, on the other hand, is the scalpel. His authority is intellectual, observational, almost surgical. He's not rattled by the supernatural elements, he's fascinated by them. Where Melville sees a breach of procedure, Bell sees a pattern. Where Melville demands accountability, Bell demands understanding. His worldview is, if something is irrational, it must be studied until it becomes rational. So when they confront Wilde and Houdini, they're not just interrogating them, they're interrogating each other's assumptions. Melville wants actionable intelligence, Bell wants interpretive clarity, Wilde wants narrative truth, and Houdini wants practical reality. And the beauty of the scene is that the journal forces all 4 men into the same room with a problem that satisfies none of their instincts. Melville can't arrest a dream, Bell can't dissect a myth, Wilde can't charm a cosmic mechanism, and Houdini can't pick the lock on a ritual. The confrontation becomes a kind of intellectual stalemate, each man realizing that the tools he trusts most in are suddenly inadequate. And that's why the tension crackles. It's not just about blame, It's about four brilliant minds realizing they're standing at the edge of something that doesn't care about their brilliance at all. It's the moment the investigation stops being a matter of law or logic and becomes a matter of belief, and none of them are comfortable with that shift, least of all Melville and Joseph Bell. A few major thematic threads run through this episode. The first is the erosion of certainty. Doyle, doctor, rationalist, creator of Sherlock Holmes, keeps meticulous notes until the moment the emerald begins to infiltrate his dreams. His handwriting frays, his logic dissolves, and the journal becomes a battlefield between reason and something that refuses to be reasoned with. Thematically, this is the season's pivot. What happens when the man who built the world's most famous detective loses faith in deduction? The theme of friendship under siege. So Wilde and Houdini break into Doyle's home not as investigators, but as friends terrified of what they'll find. Their banter is still sharp, but the emotional stakes are rising. Wilde's silk scarf, normally a symbol of vanity, becomes a desperate tool to contain something monstrous. This episode quietly asks, how far will you go to save someone who may no longer be themselves? And the last theme is ritual, myth, and the architecture of belief. The murders form a ritual circle. The emerald is a catalyst, Doyle is a vessel. This is the first time the show openly states that the killings are not random, but part of a structured invocation, an ancient rite being reenacted on the streets of London. The Golden Dawn's occult framework becomes the lens through which the characters interpret the inexplicable, the tension between skepticism, Houdini, Yeats' symbolism, Bell's empiricism, and Wilde's theatricality gives the episode its intellectual electricity. Okay, I think that about does it for this week. Next week, we're down to the first part of what I hope is an exciting conclusion of the season. As always, feel free to write me at themidnightdispatch@gmail.com. And if you want access to ad-free episodes, early access to new episodes, and the upcoming bonus story, check out patreon.com/themidnightdispatch. Once we get closer to the end of the season, I'll announce what you can expect from the bonus episodes, and I might even drop some hints about where we're going for season 2. It will be a whole new time period, a whole new cast of characters, and a whole different genre of storytelling altogether. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Until next week, good night, everyone.